Welcome back, everyone. It's Mindy Eggen here with you today for Lawn Fawn, and in today's video we are going to be doing some masking to do some ink blending. I'm going to first start by coloring in my images. I'm using the desk, the mouse, and the individual typewriter from You're Just My Type, and then I have the sheet of paper with the little mouse poking up above from Love Poems stamp set. So I stamped these images onto Lawn Fawn's white cardstock using their jet black ink, which is Copic friendly, and then I'm going to use my Copic markers to color in all the images. I have the colors listed above on the top there, and for my desk, I'm starting off with the browns, which is the E27, 25, and 23. For my little mice, I did a really light brown, so I used E43, E42, and E41, and I did bring in an R20 just to dab into the ears a little bit there. My typewriter is going to be in purples, and the reason I'm doing that is because I had done a card off screen ahead of time, and when I was ink blending, my purple always gets shafted. I never get purple. So that is why I'm coloring my typewriter now in purple. Once I have all of those images colored in, I'm going to use a sentiment off of the Love Poem stamp set. I'm just attaching that to a clear block, and I'm going to stamp that on my little sheet of paper using the jet black ink. Then I'm going to line up the coordinating dies to these, hold them in place with some purple tape, and run that through my die cut machine. And then I will give you a look at everything die cut out. So there's not a lot of pieces to this. This actually didn't take too long to put together. And then I could start working on my background. Now to do the masking on my background, I am using some Masking Magic, which is just a masking paper that I have, and a piece of white cardstock from Lawn Fawn. Both are cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Then I'm going to take the largest of the outside in stitched stackable heart. I'm going to center that on my masking paper. You can use whatever masking paper you have on hand. Once I have that centered, I'm going to hold that in place with the purple tape, keeping that tape to the inside. And I can just save that extra piece for a later time. I want the outside edge. Then I'm going to attach this to my white cardstock. So I'm peeling this back just a little bit, about halfway down, and I'm going to line up the top part of my card first. I just found this easier to do this in sections. Once that part was attached, I can remove the rest of that backing sheet and just let this kind of gently fall into place, and then I can press down. This is a really, really light tack, so if I need to adjust it, I can. And I'm not ripping my paper, but it will hold in place really well for the ink blending. Now for the ink blending, I am going to be using picked raspberry, spiced marmalade, mustard seed, twisted citron, and salty ocean distress inks. I haven't used my distress inks in a long time and decided to give them a little love. I forgot how bright and vibrant the distress inks are, and they're also water reactive, which is something I really love to work with. So I'm starting in the top corner by using a blending tool, and I'm just going to ink these on, blend these on, using a circular motion. And you can see I'm just going in rainbow order, blending one into the other. Sometimes I'll go back and forth to kind of smooth out that transition. My salty ocean got a little cut off, but I was able to sneak a little bit of that in. And you can see as I'm ink blending, I'm starting off of the cardstock, so on that masking paper, and then blending onto my open area, which is the cardstock. Then once I have that completely blended, I'm going to add a little interest to this background. So I'm just taking a sprayer with some clean water and a paintbrush, and I'm going to just flick this water all over the background. And I'll dab up any excess with a paper towel, so it'll give that reactive look. And of course, I had to add some sparkle, so I am going to take some of the liquid stardust. Now I made sure to shake this really, really well, because otherwise all of that sparkle kind of settles in the bottom of the bottle. So I'm just going to put a couple drops onto my craft mat, and I'm just taking this right to the background. Now you could dilute it. so it's not as shiny or as silvery, but I just used it as is. I let that sit and dry for just a minute or two, and then I could peel away that masking paper. And I love how this is such a crisp, clean heart. I do have some little marks there from the stitching of that when the die cut that out, but I think that looks so cool. So I'm glad that happened. So this is just a close-up of all that sparkle and how the Distress inks react with the water. Then I'm going to die cut out a simple wavy banner from black licorice cardstock, the simple puffy clouds from the pixie dust cardstock, and I like that this gives me an outline and a cloud, so I can save those clouds for later. I'm just going to use the outline for now. Now for my sentiment, I'm going to heat emboss onto that banner. So I'm using this wavy sentiment off of the Love Poems stamp set, I believe it was. I'm going to just prep that cardstock with an anti-static powder tool and bring in a piece of white cardstock because I couldn't see my banner on my mat. So I'm just using an acrylic block to stamp this right on with the Lawn Fawn embossing ink. And then I'm going to actually pick this up with my tweezers so I don't burn my fingers when I go to heat emboss this. So I'm going to sprinkle on the white embossing powder. And I do have my heat gun heating up off on the side. So when I do take it to my cardstock, it's nice and hot and melts my embossing powder right away. Now I trimmed my panel down to 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm just going to add that to a piece of white cardstock that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I just used a regular tape runner for that. And then I could start gluing my pieces together. So I just added some liquid glue to attach my sheet of paper to my typewriter, and then lining up about, I want everything to be centered. So I have my desk in there to kind of line that up, get an idea of where the clouds are, make sure that they're visible. And I'm adding liquid glue to those and just kind of dabbing that a little bit so the glue isn't so thick on it. And then I can start adding my desk to the cardstock. Now the desk I'm just going to add with a tape runner. The mouse with the typewriter, I'm actually going to attach some foam squares behind that and then put that on top of my desk, so it just gives it a little bit of dimension. Now I did notice I had a little bit of foam square sticking out, so I'm just carefully peeling that up, and I'm going to just trim that little corner off so that that won't stick to an envelope if I decide to put this in the mail. And then my other mouse is sitting in front of the typewriter is just attached with the tape runner there. And my sentiment will be attached with the foam squares. And I'm going to put that just right above my mouse with the piece of paper coming out of the typewriter. Then I can just trim off those excess clouds so my edges are nice and flush and straight. And that will finish off our card. I love how bright and vibrant this rainbow is, and I just can't get enough of these stamp sets with these little mice and the typewriter. I think they are just so adorable. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.